Hi, it's Anish Giri. Welcome to round 7 recap of the Canadian tournament. As the tournament is slowly approaching the middle line, many players are losing their chances to fight for the first place, and they start getting desperate, and things are getting crazy. Let's see what happened today. The first critical moments came in the game between Richard Rapport and Jan Nepomniachtchi. Richard, eager to try out his last chance, perhaps, or so he thought, with Jan having 3 wins to his name, and Richie having none. He was eager today to win. This was important for him. He went for 1e4. Jan, of course, played a solid Petrov, and they played a theoretical variation. Jan played bishop d6 once again, the same line he played in the World Championship match. Richard tried something rare with queen b3, takes, and knight g5, but this led to a forced line that Jan knew very well. He played it very quickly. Looked like he repeated it before the game, anticipated that it might come today. And here, Richard started thinking, and it appeared that we have a forced draw as early as this. People couldn't believe it. How could that happen? Neither could Richard, and spending more and more time, he decided to go crazy instead and avoid the draw, play for a win with the move knight d2. And it seemed to make sense. The queen does get trapped. White is up a rook for now, and after knight e4, knight a6, White gives back the queen, and now he's got 2 rooks and the pawn for the queen. Rook is supposed to be worth 5 points, pawn 1, and queen something like 9 or 10. So White had material advantage. But what's more important in such kind of positions, in all kinds of positions, the first factor you should look at, if you are a little bit stronger than a noob, is the king safety. Black's king has nice shelter, White's king doesn't. This pawn is left its original post, and now Black's having all the fun. He's much better coordinated. The king is going to be a constant trouble, and Jan won actually quite smoothly. He brought all his pieces towards the king here. The queen, the pawn started rolling forward, and then he traded this strong knight on e4, entered with the queen, then bishop joined, and the king is missing this crucial pawn. If the pawn on g2 was there, it would be a different story. White would be better. But now with this weak king, it's only a matter of time till it gets checked, and then soon also checkmated. Painful game for Richard Rapport. He should have just been happy with the draw. After the game, he said that he was not aware of this bishop h3 right here. He thought this was a wrong move. He tried to punish it. But this was not a way to do so. There was no punishment. It was just a draw. Sometimes you have to accept the draw. That means Richard has no more chances at all. He's on -1 score, while Jan storming forward. The 4th win already. Very impressive. Next game is between Duda and Hikaru Nakamura. Both players want to win the game and start fighting as well for the top spots, but it wasn't easy. Duda played the Nimzo with e3. Hikaru played a very solid variation where White has an isolated pawn, but open bishops. But Black has a very good pawn structure, and only problem is that this bishop is quite passive. Hikaru tried to solve the problem of the bishop, get it to the diagonal, but Duda provoked a weakness here. And now with the weaknesses of this pawn of the square, Hikaru had quite some problems to solve, but he was pretty accurate in this game. This looks really quite poor for Black now. The bishop is really bad. It's especially here, facing these pawns of its own color. Knight is much better. But it was not so easy for White, as Hikaru got an active rook. And Duda played very well so far, fixing the knight here, not allowing a g5. Queen is also on the dark, everything is on the dark squares, everything is nice. But now Black plays g6, and here White made a mistake. Another move with the pawn to the dark square. Not good, as it turns out. Hikaru used his chance, boom, activating the bishop, and now offering a queen trade. With the queen trade, the active rook makes all the difference, and Hikaru was able to hold. The mistake was here. Duda had a chance. He should have kept this bishop at bay, even placing his pawns on the light squares. Still, it was more important to restrict the bishop. And then slowly, perhaps, you can push for the b file, activate your pieces, and try to get around eventually to the black king, because he's slightly weakened with this pawn forward here. But it was not meant to be, and before queen to c6, queens got traded, and Hikaru was accurate. This pawn is weak, this pawn is weak, and Duda had to be content with the draw. A chance, a miss for Duda, but both players are probably not fighting for the first place anymore, as things are looking quite bad for them. Hikaru is on 50%, Duda on -1, but Nepo has got 4 wins by now. Not easy to somehow narrow that gap. The other game we have to take a look at is between Ding and Firouzja. Both players very frustrated with the tournament. Ding played the English variation, English opening, d3, a well-known nuance. The idea is that after knight f3, you can't attack the knight with e4. And so white gets a nice reversed Sicilian of sorts, and is even able to grab some space in the center with d4. But black has got good pieces, a strong bishop, and we've got a balanced position. White has a bit more space, black's got nice pieces, open e-file. But here was a crucial moment. It no longer matters too much for the tournament what these two players do, probably. It's really hard for them to come back into the race with their scores that they have now. Ding with the 1 loss, Firouzja with 2 losses. But still, this was a demonstration of in how poor shape Firouzja was. He spent here 50 minutes on move queen a7. You can allow knight e4, give up that powerful bishop, but then also take that beautiful knight on c3. Knight on c2 is much more passive. But you can also play queen a7 as he did. But white spent so much time. What was wrong with Alireza? Probably too much pressure, as Hikaru said in his post-game interview. Too much pressure on the youngster. And he is afraid to make a move, afraid to make that mistake. And now he's made too many. He can no longer come back in this tournament with the score that he has. After this, the game continued rather uneventfully. Players traded a lot of pieces. And it was here where Alireza still had a chance to try and complicate the game, but he already had little time. He tried to go for f5, keep the strong knight on e4, perhaps try some kind of kingside play. It's a little far-fetched, but it was possible. But how he played was just rather unambitious. He was down on time, low on confidence. He just wanted to trade everything and managed to do so. But this didn't bring him anything more than a draw. The game was quickly drawn. A lot of moves happened, but nothing really relevant, just a lot of trades eventually. And the most important game that was remaining, the last game between Fabi and Timur Rajabov. Crucial game. After Nepo won his game, Fabi really needed that win, and let's see what happened. So he started with 1 e4, c5. Already a surprise. Timur was always going for the solid Berlin, but by now he's been shown so many times that his preps there is not ideal, that he no longer trusted it. And on the rest they prepared a very funky little line called the O'Kelly variation. Not such a bad opening, but a complete surprise for Fabi. Fabi here spent 10 minutes thinking about his move, already on move 3. Well prepared by Timur, but as we'll see, this was not enough to get a good position out of the opening. This is some sort of a theoretical variation. Here, white should probably start with knight c3. He played bishop d3, allows black to take the queen, knight c3, queen d7. Now black has ideas of castling long. After castle, he should have now castled long, but Timur was not able to recollect his prep. After long castle, black is already kind of doing pretty well. He played knight f6. Now white's got bishop g5, bishop 7, rook e1. After long castle, he can take a pawn on e5. And this pawn sacrifice was rather a sad necessity for Raja at this point, and he was already much worse. After knight c6, takes, rook d5. Fabi was in the driver's seat with an extra pawn. It was still quite drawish. We've got opposite color bishops. Lots of trade of heavy pieces can happen. The rooks can get traded, sometimes also the queens, as we will see, like that. But still an extra pawn for white. Somewhere around here, it looked like Raja might escape, perhaps something like b5, but then takes, bishop takes, knight takes f5, rook d1. Position like this, quite drawish, but not a draw just yet. We've got knights on the board still, besides the bishops, and we'll try to activate the king and then try to trade a bishop for knight and get rid of these opposite colored bishops. As you know, if there are only bishops on the board and no knights, the opposite colored bishops is enough for black to draw even without the pawn. But yeah, with the knights on the board, still a nasty endgame. So Timur played differently, and now I really liked how Fabi played it. Brought the bishop to e4 and then supported it with the pawn on f3. That's very beautiful. And bishop can't be hit by the knight. It's well known that when knight is diagonally placed like this, it's just too far. It needs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4 squares to reach this square. So placing a piece diagonally against the knight is always very efficient, with 1 square in between. And yeah, the bishop was very strong, and Fabi managed to convert this. It wasn't easy. Somewhere here, rook d2 was a little inaccurate. Fabi should have started with king g3. In fact, this idea of potentially activating the king after black takes the knight is very important, so he should have played king g3 first here. Played rook d2, not a great move. Now after takes 95, black has some play. c1, another passive move. Here black had some chances to get some counterplay, maybe reroute his knight to f6. But he went f6, looks very solid, placing the pawns on the color of other than the bishop. But now white's got this nice plan of bringing the king to h5 and then pushing all the stuff forward and getting a past f-pawn. And that's what he executed eventually. Very good, accurate play by Fabi. Here g6 looks tempting. After fg, there is a discovery, but Fabi saw everything. And after g7, followed by bishop g6, pawn will cost black a rook, and white remains winning because he will try to queen the other pawn as well. So well calculated by Fabi, and after b5, f4, knight was kicked away. Fabi just entered with the king, and he gave all his queenside pawns, but he went for the kingside pawns. And bishop on two flanks matters very much, as we will see later in the game. Fabi was very, very accurate. Even allowed black to queened himself. Now the queens can get traded, and they got traded here. Now, as we'll see, especially here in the end, after knight d6, the difference between the knight and the bishop. Now the bishop so far away from the pawn, but in just 2 moves, able to reposition itself quickly and control the enemy's pawn. So a very, very accurate play by Fabi. From the moment the king was on h5, even though he was in time trouble, everything was pretty accurate. And after the time control, all the moves were very accurate. Rook d2 was a good one. I thought here rook d8 was tempting with idea b2, then you do check, check. But Fabi rightly judged that this would be not accurate. After rook b5, rook d6, you've got this move, rook b7, and then the b pawn still goes forward. So these kind of ideas were there. Fabi was very accurate with rook d2 and then king e6, and then calculating that you can allow him to queen first, but after this and queen f6, there is no way to checkmate the king after knight b5. This is not checkmate because I can take, and it's checkmate here. So a great play by Fabi, and very convincing win, an important one, but he's still half point behind Jan Nepomniachtchi. Now let's look at the standings and what we got for tomorrow. By now there's no question, there is going to be a 2-horse race. It's Nepo or Fabi, probably both, if Magnus refuses to play them. The standing is such that Nepo has 5.5 out of 7, Fabi 5 out of 7. Nakamura, the only player on 50%, is in the 3rd place, way behind both the players, and unlikely to make his comeback, though it might be tomorrow. Tomorrow Hikaru is facing Fabiano, and if he wins, he is still in with a shot. Another important game, of course, Nepomniachtchi against Ding. Nepo can start playing it safe, but he has a black game against Fabi incoming, so if I were him, I would still try to go all out. Use the fact that the wind is blowing your way straight into your back, you're going forward, and Ding is in a very bad shape. I would just push with the white pieces, try to clinch one more win, and make the game against Fabi with the black pieces less relevant. We'll see what strategy Nepo chooses. Still, I do expect it to be a draw somehow. And other games are far less relevant, but of course, still, as fans of players like Firouzja, we want to see how he will do against Rajabov. Time for him to try and go for that win. And the Rapport against Duda, game between two players who were beaten by Jan Nepomniachtchi, both very frustrated, both want to win. It's going to be a fun game, though most likely not too relevant for the tournament standing. This was it, round 7 recap for the candidates. Thank you for watching and see you tomorrow. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and go pro on Chessable. There you can find game of the day video in a lot more detail. I look there move by move at stuff, and they also have puzzles, which is really nice. You can go, there's probably a link somewhere here, probably pinned in the comments, that you can follow, and check out my course of Chessable and the candidates, my Chessable course on the candidates, my Chessable course on the candidates on Chessable, by Chessable, with the puzzles. And you can go pro and get that. So thank you for watching, bye bye.